Grand Prince Imyung, the fourth son of King Sejong and Queen Soyeon, declared that he wouldn't showcase his horseback riding talent. Let's start with something easy. If you can't even repeat this, you're not qualified to be mounted armored soldiers. Now, everyone, watch closely, he commanded. Imyung readied his horse, drew his bow, and released 3 arrows, each striking the center with perfect accuracy, leaving everyone in shock. He then said, "All right, everyone should be able to follow, right? That's the most accurate demonstration. How's that easy?" Imyung smiled and said, "Forget about any allowance if you fail even at this. Now, proceed in order." However, as the soldiers began their training, they suddenly collapsed to the ground, overcome by exhaustion. Imyung, shocked and disappointed, muttered, "How could they be worse than I was in my childhood?" Suyang addressed the soldiers, saying, "At this moment, you may see yourselves as weak. You were once tough, but isn't this the result of neglecting your training?" He took off his shirt, revealing a physique reminiscent of Ronnie Coleman. He declared, "Even with just half of this potential realized, you'll be unbeatable by anyone in the world." The soldiers cheered, exclaiming, "That's right. There's nothing impossible for the body of His Highness, Grand Prince Suyang." Imyung remarked, "Next to that body, the fellows from the military training command look as thin as straws." Just then, some men nearby noticed Suyang and commented, "Let's go, they're not a big deal." The scene shifted to a tribe where several men were engaged in discussion. One man said, "The one who demonstrated his skills on horseback possesses a rare talent, even for our tribe." The second man replied, "If such a person, who is reportedly the son of the king of Joseon, becomes a general, it would be frightening." He was shocked by Suyang's physique, exclaiming, "Yeah, that body is truly grand and magnificent." Another man added, "This is serious. I wouldn't be surprised if he could easily pull the bow used by Yi Seongjae." The men asked each other, "Do you remember Gabiolcho?" They explained, "Gabechi means private army in the Mongolian language, and it's called Gabiolcho in Korean." "Those ferocious men led by Yi Seongjae," one of them said. Many chieftains, including Mengtamu, became his blood brothers or subordinates and fought alongside him. If soldiers like those in Gabiolcho emerge in Joseon soon, they may once again exert their strength against us. There was clearly an intention behind showing us the training, too. Suddenly a guest arrived, Keshig, a bodyguard of the northern Yuan Khan. Keshig stated, "I've come by order of the Khan." The man was taken aback and said, "To think that the Khan needs something from lowly me, it's an honor." Keshig replied with a smirk, "The brigade commander of the Uryankai is calling himself lowly? That's a good one." He continued, "Anyway, the reason I'm here is that we're soon going to strike Joseon." Upon hearing these words, the men were shocked and eagerly demanded an explanation. Keshig replied, "By siding with the Ming dynasty, they betrayed their faith." The man hesitated and asked, "But to teach them a lesson, we must first raise an army." Keshig responded, "There are 40,000 soldiers. That's enough. Just add 5,000 of your troops, and since you have connections with Joseon, report everything happening there. Their army, any changes in the regime, and even defensive preparations along the way. Everything." The man said, "I will follow the Khan's order." Joseon sent 20,000 troops to subdue Limanju. However, due to a lack of internal stability, they didn't achieve proper results. We guided those we saw, which is why the king of Joseon invited us. Keshig asked, "How did Joseon manage to capture Limanju with such an army?" The man replied, "He was caught by a fever at the worst time and couldn't even escape. Limanju endured for 4 days in that condition." "Quite a tenacious guy," Keshig responded. "A fever in the summer? Such dreadful luck." The tribe leader said, "As for the 5,000 troops you mentioned, it's impossible in our current situation." Keshig replied, "You could easily muster that number by bringing the surrounding tribes into the fold." The tribe leader responded, "You're not wrong, but there are issues related to my uncle." Keshig pressed on, "You mean Fanka? As I heard, he died recently. Couldn't you even absorb the subordinates under his command?" The tribe leader replied, "I'm ashamed of myself. Believe me, I would like to rush at them right away." Keshig said, "Then I'll assign you the task of assisting and supplying our troops, but don't even dream of receiving any trophies." The tribe leader said, "Since I've decided to reveal everything, The Khan should also let us know the details. Isn't this war just a diversion? Keshig smirked and replied, "What a bright guy you are." Keshig continued, "The 40,000 troops under Taishi's command and the 40,000 led by the Khan will launch simultaneous strikes on Joseon and Ming. You can look forward to it." With that, he turned and left. As Keshig departed, the man said, "Those bastards are trying to oppress us again." The tribe leader ordered, "Prepare the horses. We need to go to Joseon immediately." The tribe leader approached the master, who said, "Keshig from the northern Yuan paid us a visit not long ago. He's planning to conquer Joseon and is forcing us to help." The tribe leader replied, according to him, they also plan to invade the Ming dynasty at the same time. The master remarked, "The Tatars informed you about this, meaning you must have agreed to cooperate as well." The tribe leader sighed and said, "I bowed my head to the northern Yuan to survive, so please forgive me." He added, "And refusal to comply," they said. Behind him, Suyang stood, thinking that this would lead to Joseon's complete extinction, similar to what happened to the Western Xia, not to mention the loss of the once-enjoyed status as a son-in-law nation. "Damn them all," he muttered. After the Mongol invasions of Korea and the capitulation of the Goryeo dynasty in the 13th century, Goryeo became a semi-autonomous vassal state and compulsory ally of the Yuan dynasty for about 80 years. It was referred to as a son-in-law kingdom within the Mongol Empire. The tribe members arrived at the king's palace and said, "Your Majesty, if the barbarians were to come under the northern Yuan's command, it would lead to a massive uprising. Even the Ming general would find it challenging to quell the high-spirited northern Yuan." The king replied, "And the reason for sharing this fact was that you wanted us to engage in battle with them for your protection." The tribe leader said, "Please understand my heart, as I must lead my kin. Just as the king of Joseon governs the country, I am simply acting for the sake of my tribe as well." The king responded, "Then it's settled. We'll discuss the details later, so go back and feign compliance with the Northern Yuan's compulsion. Now, Crown Prince, Grand Prince Suyang, and Frontier Affairs Minister Kim Jong-seo, please enter." The man said to the king, "If the Northern Yuan has involved the barbarians, it won't be an easy war to end." The king replied, "Does this mean they've figured out a way to defeat the Ming? Although it may not be a sweeping victory, they must have prepared to deal a serious blow. They may even have devised a method to counter the infantry hand cannons." The crown prince then said to the king, "They may also be planning to raid during a rainstorm, but relying on the weather is not a wise strategy for a general." The king nodded and agreed. Indeed, they may be planning to raid during a rainstorm, but depending on the weather is not a wise action for a general. He ordered Grand Prince Suyang prioritize training the twin frontier armored soldiers. Additionally, I have an order for Frontier Affairs Minister Kim Jong-seo. Check the ordinary soldiers who will participate in the expedition and head towards Shenyang. The day of war arrived, and Keshig, mounted on his horse, addressed his army. "Everyone, listen. You must have gathered here bearing a grudge against the Ming dynasty. I, too, want to tear the Ming emperor to shreds. How much have they persecuted us? The Ming has forgotten our ancestors' feats. They see us as nothing more than servants riding horses in the grasslands. Our ancestors brought down Liao and Jin and took the Central Plains. Can't we do it again?" Keshig unleashed his sword and declared, "I will lead the vanguard. The Khan's army from the east is already prepared to invade Joseon. Together, we can bring down the Ming." One of the soldiers said to Keshig, "I didn't expect the tribes to participate so actively." Keshig replied, "It's only natural since they've all suffered similarly because of the horse markets. I'll show him how foolish he's been, that damned Ming emperor." The scene shifted to the Ming emperor, where Chief Eunuch Wang Zhen humbly greeted him. He said, "It is reported that preparations to sow chaos in the northern Yuan, as desired by the emperor, have been completed." The emperor replied, "I will come forward myself, so all government officials at or above the rank of ministers are to participate." That reminds me, Joseon said they would come out to defend the Shenyang region. Doesn't it seem like they're worried about my defeat? Wang Zhen responded, "Joseon is doing this for its own survival as well. They believe it would be infinitely difficult to drive the bastards out if they bypass Shenyang and enter Joseon. Such worthless thoughts will inevitably vanish in the presence of my royal dignity. As he presented the emperor with a sword, the emperor said, I wish I could summon King Yi Du of Joseon to have him personally lead the army. Wang Zhen said to the emperor, with the emperor's favor, the other day, the second son of Yi Du visited our country and gained much knowledge. While the eldest son must inherit the throne, wouldn't the second-born be able to participate in the war? However, another man interjected, please excuse this servant, Yu Qian, for informing the emperor. He might be royalty from an uncivilized country, but it is still not logical to compel him to participate in another country's war. The emperor, angered, pointed his sword at the man and declared, even if the will of heaven aligns with mine, I determine what is logical. Quickly write down my words. Afterward, Joseon received the Ming's letter of credence. It stated that Grand Prince Suyang, representing the uncivilized country, would participate in the emperor's campaign to witness his royal dignity. The scene shifted to Suyang and the king talking with each other. The king said, this is greatly out of line with etiquette. Suyang replied, your humble son is just concerned about whether there's a horse that can bear my weight. The king responded, your position is that of an envoy, not a general. The king said, you won't actually be on the battlefield, so stay quietly inside the military curtain. To this, Suyang replied, please don't worry too much. I'll devote myself to avoiding mistakes. The king then urged him, make sure to come back alive. At the Namhansan Fortress headquarters of the Military Training Command, someone shouted, the general is climbing the net. It was Huang Dongsu, who exclaimed, what an excellent device. It has everything the ordinary soldiers can do. One man looked at Huang and said, they're set to deploy in a week. I can't believe your highness, the Grand Prince, will personally appear at the battlefront. Another man replied, I just think of staying quietly behind the military curtain. Huang said, your highness the Grand Prince, the battlefield is not as amusing as you may think. Hey, don't beat around the bush. I want to cross swords with your highness the Grand Prince. The man was shocked and asked, to cross swords? Why? As the duel began, soldiers commented, it doesn't matter that the general looks 50 years old. He's a remarkable general who has been cutting down thoroughly skilled barbarian chieftains. His Highness the Grand Prince Suyang can't be a match for him. Perhaps the general will go easy on him. Otherwise, how could they even exchange 10 blows? Wang continued, your Highness the Grand Prince, the state of affairs is getting crazy. In this mad world, who knows what will happen? For your Highness the Grand Prince, I'll go with might and main. The Grand Prince, shocked, replied, with might and main, why? The duel began, and both Huang and Suyang launched their attacks against each other. Meanwhile, the Kishig army advanced to attack the base. The defending army was prepared to shoot, but as they loaded the gunpowder, a loud blast occurred. One man shouted in disbelief, what? Your hand cannon exploded? Withdraw the infantry hand cannoneers to the rear. Withdraw them. The casualties are already too high, someone shouted. As Huang and Suyang continued to clash with each other, the Kishig army gained the upper hand. Kishig rallied his troops, commanding, spare no sword, trample and kill them. Suddenly, the leader arrived and shouted, calm down. What are the rear archers doing? In response, Kishig shouted, capture the leaders. On August 8, 1449, the emperor, along with the prince, was traveling on horseback. The emperor said, the vanguard unit has arrived at Datong, but it's been over 2 weeks without a single messenger. The prince replied, perhaps the emperor's dignity alone has already compelled the enemy to retreat. Suddenly, a soldier rushed in to inform the emperor, there are signs that the enemy has temporarily stayed 20 li ahead. The emperor replied, you rabble, if you heard that the royal me was coming, it was a must to meet me at the drop of a hat. The emperor looked up at the sky in disappointment, his expression grim. In the background, 2 men could be seen hanging, captured and displayed as a warning. An old man gazed into the mirror, lost in thought. He mused, now it's on the horizon. The person who had to become a governmental eunuch for just 1 silver nyang is nowhere to be found. Watch, behold the powerful figure standing on the battlefield. The heavens may have made me the son of a poor man, he reflected. Yet have I not risen to the highest position among most men now? Through this war today, I will ascend to a spot higher than even the emperor. I will stand higher than the heavens themselves." The scene shifted to Emperor Jiangfu, who said, "I have something to ask the eunuch of the Ministry of Rights. The other day, you claimed that one cannoneer could easily match 5 archers. What is the basis for such a statement?" The prince replied, "Originally, out of 5 archers shooting arrows, only 1 shot would injure a person, wouldn't it? However, if a hand cannon hits its target, it can pierce through armor immediately. Therefore, it's equivalent to 5 archers, isn't it?" The emperor shouted, "What kind of calculation is that? A skilled archer can shoot 5 arrows in the time it takes to fire 1-hand cannon pellet. The 2 weapons may only differ in power, but that doesn't really matter." The prince gazed at the emperor and said, "That's not for you to judge, is it? Enough about that. Let's move to where the emperor resides." They saw a man hanging on a pole, dead, alongside soldiers. One soldier reported to the emperor, "Not only are there still soft horse droppings, but the corpses also do not exhibit signs of rigor mortis, indicating that the Tatars were here less than half a day ago. According to the defeated enemies, they invaded the entire Yu County 3 days ago and massacred the subjects." The emperor, shocked, exclaimed, "No chance! Yu County is supposed to be the rear." He shouted, "Everyone, retreat. We'll stop the enemy's invasion at the Juyong Pass and then march again." However, the already exhausted soldiers struggled to retreat quickly, resulting in a military withdrawal that was slower than a long-distance march. The scene shifted to Keshig, sitting confidently in his chair. He remarked, "Those laggards. They spent 15 days getting here, so it'll probably take about that long to go back." He leaned forward, his expression darkening as he continued, "According to the captives, they have 120,000 soldiers. If we intend to eliminate them all, it should be okay to kill 8,000 a day, right?" The man suggested, "How about capturing the emperor and forcing him to open Beijing's gates for us?" Keshig smirked and replied, "Wow, that's not a bad idea either." The two exchanged glances, contemplating the potential power shift this bold move could create. The atmosphere grew tense with the prospect of an audacious plan unfolding. With an evil smile, Keshig commanded, "Tell the tribal chiefs, repeat nightly raids to exhaust those bastards." His eyes glinted with malice as he envisioned the chaos that would ensue, hoping to weaken the enemy's resolve and morale. The room filled with a sinister energy as the warriors prepared for relentless assaults under the cover of darkness, fully aware of their leader's ruthless intentions. Someone shouted, "The Ming bastards have embers to fire their hand cannons. That's what we aim at." As soldiers positioned themselves, one of them carefully drew back his bowstring, taking aim at the flickering flames where the hand cannons were being loaded. The tension in the air was palpable as they prepared to strike, hoping to disrupt the enemy's artillery and turn the tide of battle in their favor. With a sharp breath, he released the arrow, sending it soaring towards the target, determined to ignite chaos among the Ming ranks. As the arrow struck true, chaos erupted among the Ming soldiers. Keshig's army surged forward with a fierce battle cry, charging relentlessly toward the enemy lines. The Ming soldier, wide-eyed and trembling, exclaimed, "Why don't the horses even flinch at the sound of hand cannons?" In a flashback, Keshig stood among his cavalry, training them with bamboo cannons. "You would run riot at the sound of bamboo bursting," he told the horses, firing the loud shots. At first, they panicked, but he calmed them with soothing words. "Listen to my voice. You are warriors, not mere beasts." As the training continued, the horses grew accustomed to the noise, becoming brave and confident. Now, as Keshig's army charged into battle, the horses stood firm, undaunted by the sounds of hand cannons. Keshig smiled fiercely, knowing his training had paid off. "Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every horse that stands beside us." The man reported to Keshig, "We rode the trained horses, racing through the Datong area, so the hand cannon's firing sound no longer scares them." Keshig nodded in approval. "Good. We've also sent bamboo to the Khan, so their horses can respond in the same way." With the horses trained and ready, Keshig's army was poised for the upcoming battle, confident that they could face whatever the Ming soldiers threw at them. Keshig's soldiers shouted, "Your boasted hand cannons pose no threat to us. Throw down your weapons, and we may spare your lives." In the Ming camp, a soldier exclaimed in despair, "I'm done with this. All our soldiers are dead, and they're commanding us, the attendants, to carry spears and swords. I'm going too. Rather than dying here, we should seize the chance to escape." Meanwhile, a man inside the camp thought to himself, "This is a bad sign. They've brought those dirty creatures who are neither men nor women." Tension filled the air as the fate of the Ming soldiers hung in the balance. The scene shifted to Tumu Fortress, where Kashig arrived, surveying the aftermath of the battle. "Their army has been halved," he reported, a glint of determination in his eyes. "As for our losses, about 4,000 are dead." He paused, contemplating the fierce resistance they faced. "They think this is their last stand, so they resist fiercely. We'll launch a full attack starting tomorrow. It must be over here." Keshig raised an eyebrow, his expression darkening. "Haven't many soldiers been dying from hand cannons?" he inquired, a hint of concern in his voice. The man nodded gravely. "It's probably because only the troops safeguarding the Ming emperor are left." Keshig sighed, his determination unwavering. "I see. Well, this won't last much longer either." He gestured to his commanders, signaling that preparations for the final assault should begin. The winds of war were shifting, and he was ready to seize the moment. The scene shifted to Emperor Mang, his voice tense and strained. "Elder eunuch," he said, glancing at the well, "the water level is showing the bottom now. 100 silver nyangs. Whoever brings me water will be rewarded with 100 silver nyangs." Suddenly, a soldier stepped forward, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Does having 100 silver nyangs mean that water will fall from the sky?" The emperor's anger flared at the insolence, and he shot back. "You bastard, saying that to a noble's face?" Another soldier burst into the tent, breathless and wide-eyed. "Enemies are fleeing from the path leading to the Juyong Pass. I'm certain the reinforcements have arrived." The emperor, filled with determination, shouted, "All right, the royal me is still here." However, the royal advisor interjected, concern etching his features. "It must be a trap. Please don't be deceived. There's no way the reinforcements have arrived so soon." The prince, a confident smile lighting up his face, declared, "Clearly, it's the palace guards advancing and driving off the enemy. Emperor, please hasten to the Juyong Pass to ensure your royal safety." But the royal advisor interjected, urgency lacing his words. "No, you shouldn't. It's an obvious trap set by those Tatars. We cannot rush into this without confirming their movements." In the tense atmosphere of the royal court, a prince with an evil smile glared at a scholar, his voice dripping with disdain. "Shut up! How dare you, some rotten scholar, talk about military matters? Another word of nonsense from your mouth, and I'll rip out your tongue." The emperor, taking a stand amidst the rising tension, interjected, "The eunuch of the Ministry of Rights is right. Prepare to retreat to the Juyong Pass without delay." His words only fueled the prince's anger. Meanwhile, the Keshig, loyal guards of the emperor, urged their comrades forward. "It's just 10 more li to the Juyong Pass. Everyone, push on." But suddenly, one of them shouted in alarm, "Whoa, there, those bastards detached corp. General, going any further is dangerous." The sense of urgency hung in the air as the fate of the empire teetered on the brink of chaos. Wang Zhen's voice rang out above the clamor, filled with urgency and authority. "What are you doing? Move ahead and shield the emperor from arrows." His command stirred the chaos, but it only fueled the prince's rage. With a scowl, the prince retorted, "Cain then! We could have held out for a few more days until the reinforcements from the Juyong Pass broke the encirclement." His frustration echoed in the air, underscoring the tension and desperation of their dire situation. The stakes were high, and every decision could mean the difference between survival and defeat. Wang Zhen's anger boiled over as he confronted the prince. "But you ruined it all, bastard. You bunch of useless nuisances." In a fit of rage, he hurled a set of metal keys, which struck the prince and sent him crashing to the ground. As the prince lay there stunned, he looked up at Fan Zhang, bewildered. "What's this for?" he demanded. With a steely gaze, Fan Zhang replied, "No amount of your dirty money can save my life." The tension between them thickened, each word resonating with the weight of betrayal and desperation in a moment where trust had long since evaporated. "I only followed the emperor's will," Wang Zhen exclaimed, desperation lacing his voice. Fan Zhang's anger surged, and he called out, "O gods of heaven and earth, Please consider this loyalty." In a swift and shocking move, he struck Wang Zhen down with a bar of soap, declaring, "You demon in a human body. How hideous your face looks without that thick makeup. Take this back. Cover the cost of traveling to the underworld, starving demon, sucking the Ming's blood." On August 23, 1449, Wang Zhen, the eunuch of the Ministry of Rights of the Ming dynasty, fell near the Tumu fortress, his life extinguished in a moment of fury. As his lifeless body lay on the ground, the flames of war surged onward, drawing ever closer to Shenyang, where the Joseon army awaited, poised for the chaos that would soon unfold.